I'm just pulling up my screen. Hey guys. Let me get this going. All right. I am going to pull up. Maria, it's BLEU. Thank you. And of course, you got to hear a herd of people coming up. All right. So I have a few things to read. We've got a few topics to talk about tonight. And of course, if you guys have any questions, you can leave them in the chat, and that way we can address them as they come in. All right. Okay. Hi, Celia. Thank you for joining me. All right. I hope everybody had a great Friday. This is the once a month live that we have every month. It's running a little bit earlier in the month because I typically have it at the end of the month, only because it's just more convenient. But because of the holidays, I said, okay, let me just go ahead and run the lives a week ahead of time. So it's going to be the same thing for December as well. So hi, Kimberly. Thank you for joining me. Hi, Tammy. Woo, I made it to Friday. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Bleu. I'm a medical coder. All right, guys, so we are talking about different topics tonight. The theme of this video is know when to hold them, know when to fold them, and know when to walk away. These are very important things in medical coding, especially in your career development. Now, sometimes, yes, we get comfortable with where we are, but we always have to be aware of the times that we need to move on, because there is going to come a point where you're going to get bored in your position, especially if you are doing something specialty and maybe it's risk adjustment and you're only working with diagnosis coding. That can lead you down a very strict path when it comes to experience. Some employers will not consider risk adjustment if that's the only position that you've had as work experience. Some will be like, okay, but you still need to tell us what you can do, like on procedures and on evaluation and management. So that is something that you don't want to lose. You do not want to lose that skill while you are in risk adjustment. Okay, so just make sure that if you are working in a risk adjustment or HCC position, that you are continuing to work with the workbooks that I have recommended. And if you're curious, the workbooks will be in the description box below when I update the description box. My lives have a general template that is always on there. And it's not until after the show that I typically will update it. So that way it's got all the information on it. But any of my videos you look at, you will see books that I recommend for practicing work, things like that. So just make sure that you're doing that. It's always important for us as medical coders to develop our skill constantly. All right. But the first thing I want to talk about, because I don't see, I'm looking for somebody and she's not in here yet. So hi, Jamie. Thank you for joining me. I love all the blue hearts. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and address another topic that I saw. Now, I saw this posted, and I want to talk about being grateful. You always hear about like successful people and what are the things that they practice and things like that. Being grateful is one of those things that they practice. And it's very important, especially for brand new medical coders, that you do practice the same thing, that you practice being grateful for the experience, being grateful for the interviews that you do go on, even though a lot of them, they're going to tell you no. And so a lot of it may just feel like a waste of your time, but actually it's not. It's preparing you for that final destination that's going to be your first home. Now, your first home in medical coding may not be your forever home. Okay, so always look at that. Sometimes people will get kind of caught up into, the money side. What are they going to get paid? And what are they going to be doing and that kind of thing? And are they going to be able to work their own hours and things like that? On your first job, it may not be the most glamorous thing. You may not get to do the things that you want to do, like maybe same day surgeries or working in the ER. You may not be able to do that as a medical coder just yet, but it is going to get you some experience. But you do need to start practicing gratitude for your entire journey. Not just for the day that you get that dream job, not just for the day that you get to do whatever it is you want to, like work at home or, work for a particular company. You need to practice gratitude all the time for your whole experience, for your failures, for your wins, for everything. So that way, everything that you've been through, you have appreciated your journey. I have appreciated every step of my journey, from the times where I felt frustrated with my own development as a medical coder, and then where I felt frustrated that I wasn't able to make my point to a provider, and maybe I felt like I lost them as far as like they're not wanting to learn or they didn't learn. But it was me needing to develop professionally so that I knew how to communicate. And that improvement led to opening a lot of doors for myself. But again, I had to appreciate those pitfalls that I can laugh at now and the highs that I celebrate now. But I want to read this because I read this posting and I so badly wanted to comment on it. But you know what? There's sometimes when people do not listen to sound advice. And this person already proved that they weren't going to listen to sound advice. So whatever I said, it wasn't going to matter anyway, because this person already had somebody in front of them that gave them very good and sound advice. And I want you all to see how she handled it. So here we go. So the post says, how are you supposed to get experience in medical billing and coding if jobs won't hire you? I am frustrated and disappointed that I can't get a job with what I went to school. And then there's a crying face. So this wonderful lady, I don't know this lady, but I like her. And she comes on there and she says, hi there. I just took a look at your profile. Things that will attract recruiters and hiring managers are, and she puts out a nice list: employment history, certifications, skills, connections, 5, overall experience, what you're trying to do, and where you're trying to go. Your profile is like a snapshot of your resume. If there's nothing to grab anyone's attention, the odds of you being approached are very slim. Give it some thought. And I was like, okay. And I liked her comment. Again, I don't know this lady, but I went ahead and liked her comment. But listen to what the original poster said. I don't want to be approached by anybody. I don't want to be approached by how many connections I have or who with. That's absurd. My profile is personal and my resume is attached to job applications. That's the only thing that matters. Okay. All right. Just have a seat. Here is a veteran medical coder trying to help you. And you couldn't be gracious enough to say, okay, so I need to spruce up my profile. I need to talk about what I'm looking for, because that's what the employers are looking for. I don't know how many times this has happened, even in my own experience, where, I write resumes for people. Now, I get it. People were not taught how to write resumes properly in high school, right? I certainly wasn't. I taught myself. I'm a writer, but I love to write. Not everybody likes to write. And with the school systems the way they are, it is very hard for children to engage. And, the teachers, sometimes they try really hard and sometimes they just get burnt out and they just stop caring because there's a lot of restraints put on them. And it's very difficult. It's a both sides argument when it comes to school and education. But what I see when I see resumes that come to me, I usually use it for, I have people, when I do resumes, I have them send me their resume so that I know what information to fill out, like their work history and their address and all that kind of stuff, their contact information. And so this is the way I know. And a lot of what they have on their original resume, it doesn't end up on the final product, right? Because the final product is geared towards what did they learn and all their transferable skills. That's what's on their resume. But on the original resume, a lot of them don't tell me what are they looking for. And if they're telling me what they're looking for, it's usually a general entry-level position who will train me, somebody who will train me. And these are the things that you don't put on your resume as a brand new medical coder. Now, yes, of course, it would be ideal that you got a entry-level position. But the thing with entry-level positions is you're going to be looking for a long time in medical coding if you're looking specifically for entry level, because every single job posting that has entry level on it is going to have 1,000 people applying for this position, because it's all brand new people thinking, oh, it's going to be somebody who will train me. Medical coding is an independent sport. 90% of the time, it is an independent sport. You do have to learn how to do your research. You have to learn how to use your book and that kind of thing, so that way you can find the answers. And yes, while you develop as a medical coder with your colleagues, you can ask questions if you get stuck. You don't go to a veteran medical coder and say, I can't figure this out, and you have not even tried. You have to show us that you're trying, okay? So again, getting back to what this person said, that's absurd. First of all, you're not a medical coder. You just graduated. This person is graciously giving you their time and telling you what they see as a veteran medical coder, and you're not willing to take notes and even try it and say thank you for your suggestions. You want to just say, that's absurd. I don't want to be, that's blah, blah, blah. No. And see, that's having an ungrateful attitude. When you have an ungrateful attitude, you will not get anywhere. I guarantee you, if she keeps having the same attitude, this is not going to last very long for her. She won't get where she wants to go for having an ungrateful attitude. Now, that other lady, I commend her for giving her sound advice. And that's all she had to do was say thank you. Be gracious and say thank you. But she didn't even do that. So don't be like this lady, guys. Don't do this. Do not do this. Show gratitude. If somebody's giving you a suggestion on what you can do, how you can improve, you take it and you be grateful and you say thank you and you apply their knowledge. I can't tell you how many ungrateful people I come across now lately, and they're getting to be a lot more because the channel's growing. But they can't take simple correction. They can't take simple advice or anything like that. And even on my videos where I'm giving you sound advice or I'm trying to point you in the right direction, I still get, whatever. You don't have to take my advice, because I know my channel helps a lot more than it annoys. So for that, I am grateful. So you see that, how I'm still grateful for those ungrateful people who come to me, because the people who are grateful, they way outnumber the ungrateful. Okay. So again, if you're out there and you're brand new, honey, I know it is rough go in the beginning. I know, because when I was out there looking for a job, it was not a picnic. Oh no, it was not a picnic. I was looking for 2 whole months, and I've gotten people who scream at me for that too. You weren't looking long enough. You don't know what it's like. I was struggling just as bad too. I was working minimum wage jobs. I was working at a bar where people talk to you all kinds of crazy ways, disrespectful ways. And I had to just stand there and just take it. That's why when people tell me, want to talk mess or whatever, it doesn't bother me, because I've heard everything, I've heard everything. So it's okay. But I had to work in those places. And as I was grateful for the experience, because you meet some nice people, but you meet a lot of not nice people. And it teaches you to be tough. I got tougher working in the bar. I got tougher because I had to work at a halfway house with people who needed help, right? In their daily life, they needed help, but they didn't always understand. They didn't have the social skills to know when they were being mean to people. And you still have to be kind to them. So I learned how to be kind even when people were mean, So that's the thing, guys. You have to be grateful for all of your experiences. If I had to take time back and go back again, if I had to change it all again, would I change anything? In my work, no. In my personal, yes. I would have my mom here, obviously. But I didn't get a choice there, But when it comes to work, oh yeah. Work, I would still do the same thing, because it taught me those lessons. And even when I came here to my forever home, and I was with a very micromanaging boss who just, I mean, was just on me, on me, on me. I do not do well with micromanaging, period. That is the one thing that it really made me stop and was like, I can't work here anymore. This was getting to be too much. And I actually had to go to the chief of our department and have a meeting and say, I can't work here anymore because I can't work under this intense pressure. This is 18 months of this intense pressure and I can't deal with it anymore. And she's like, no, Blue, you're not going anywhere. She's like, you know, we can work this out. And she said, we got a new supervisor coming in and I'm going to put you with her, but hopefully we won't have no problems after this. And I've been with that supervisor ever since then. So that's the thing, guys. You know, going through that process and being tough and sticking it out for those 18 months when there was many times that I wanted to just give it all away and be like, okay, you know what? Maybe this isn't for me. Maybe this isn't the best place for me because it was such a stressful time, but I was not going to let this person run me off from my job. And that was the way I was thinking because at the time it was still a job. It was not yet a passion yet. And I had thought maybe I should do real estate. Maybe I should go into real estate. Maybe I should do that instead. Because I felt like I was doing very well with work, but I was just running into a brick wall with this person. It was just one person doing this. And I said, no, I don't want to be the person who gives up because one person made me miserable. And she tried for 18 months to get rid of me. And she did not succeed because I'm still there. So, but going through that made me tougher too. Now, that I would not have wanted to go through ever again. And I will not go through that again when it comes to micromanaging, because not everybody who's a leader in a leadership position should be in a leadership position. And so that's the important thing to know. Again, going back to the know when to hold them, know when to fold them, and know when to walk away. When you're working in a place, anywhere that you work, and maybe you're running into a hostile work environment and that kind of thing. The way that I navigated in a hostile work environment before, it was literally you have to go mind over matter. At the end of the day, why are you there? And I had to ask myself that question. Why am I there? Well, I'm there because I enjoy being a medical coder. Okay, then that's where you have to focus. So no matter how many little pings I heard from the nitpicking emails that kept going off, because she would email me several times a day just for little things, just nitpicking. And it was out of control. And so, just trying to put that like on mute. And I was like, oh, this is nice. I can do this. This was something I could control. I could mute it. And then I would check at the end of the day, the emails. So I didn't always have to get those alerts constantly. And I was able to concentrate more on my work. And that helped me to develop those coping skills. Okay, what can I control about the situation? When I have, a lot of distractions, what can I control here? Okay, I can eliminate this sound. I can eliminate this task. I can focus on this work. So that was how I did it. And again, I was grateful for the ability to be able to learn those skills at that time because it helped me to survive being under that kind of supervisor, And then going on to my next supervisor, being conditioned where, okay, I always have to watch what I'm doing and that kind of thing, as far as like, always keeping track of the things that I had to have proof. That was the way that it was with the other supervisor. I had to have proof. So whenever I was getting ready for audits and things like that, I did the same thing with my new supervisor. Okay, I have all my proof and here's my proof and this is my proof. And so she's like, wow, no one else does this. She goes, this is awesome. But it was because of the conditioning that I had. But when I could not take it anymore, and I was just like, okay, no one to hold them, no one to fold them, and no one to walk away. And when I said, okay, this is it, I can't do this anymore. I said, but before I leave, let me go talk to the chief. And so I went to the chief, and I had asked my supervisor for a meeting with the chief. And she said, well, what is this about? What is it about, Blue? And I said, I don't have to tell you, because that's what we're always told with HR. We don't have to say anything. And so she said, well, okay. So she set the appointment and I got the meeting and I went to the chief And I just broke down. And I said, I can't. I said, here's everything I've been going through. And she's like, oh, wow. She's like, okay, well, I did not know a lot of this. I didn't know a lot of this was going on. She said, of course, you only hear one side. And she only heard the supervisor side. She hadn't heard anything from me. And so it was just like, okay, well, here's everything. She's like, okay, well, we're going to go ahead and put you with the new supervisor because you're not going to go anywhere, Blue. She said, you're an excellent coder. You've done very well with your work. She said, you have accepted every challenge. You know, you've gotten awards like a bonus and things like that because of your performance. And so she said, we cannot afford to lose you. She goes, so you're going to stay right where you are. And so I was like, oh, okay, you know. But again, going through that experience and learning that, and had I not shown gratitude towards the chief and be like, okay, the chief wants to give me another chance to go into another direction here, I probably would be somewhere else. I probably wouldn't be at the hospital, and maybe I might have been a real estate agent. And I'd be on YouTube as a real estate agent and not a medical coder. I don't know. Let me see these comments. I got a lot. I see a lot of them coming in here. All right, here we go. I see a lot of blue hearts. Thanks, guys, for the blue hearts. Jamie says, yes, Blue helped me with my resume, and I got my first job after getting her to help me. Thank you. Hi, Alexandria. BLEU forever. Thank you. Autocorrect. Yeah. Tammy, I absolutely would not be on this new career journey if it wasn't for your enthusiasm for medical coding, Blue. Thank you. I love that. Cool says, hey, Blue, I had a micromanager as well. It was the worst. It is the most stressful thing in the workplace. I can actually deal with like catty coworkers and gossiping coworkers, but it's a micromanaging boss that I just, I don't do well with that. Hi, Liz. Blue, you were the one who encouraged me to commit to school for medical coding, as well as see this as a career and not just a job. That's awesome. I love that. I love that. Celia, I love the perseverance in this story, and HR is something so tricky. It is. It really is. But you know what? The HR lady that we have, the head of HR, she's been here for, I think, 30 years at that hospital. She's been there for 30 years. And when I had to go see her one time for another matter, it wasn't this. But she was just very helpful, and she was just so Janie on the spot with everything. And not only that, she managed to handle this and like 2 or 3 other things that were happening and her phone ringing all at the same time. And everybody felt like they had a place with her, and she wasn't distracted, and she wasn't like, hold on, you know, she was still engaged with you, and she'd be like, okay, okay, just a second. Oh, yes, okay, well, I got this. And she was just really very organized, you know. So many plates spinning in the air, and she had it. So I was like, wow, you know, but that's a really good mark of a very good leader, somebody who can do that, you know. Forever says micromanagers should act their wage, not manager pay. That's right. Liz, was there a definitive moment when you saw this as a career and not just a job? Or did it just grow into a career over the years? Okay. So my aha moment, this is what I always call it, my aha moment. I had an aha moment in 2014. So if we can rewind the clock a little bit, 2014 was literally the year before implementation of ICD-10, right? So ICD-10 CM and ICD-10 PCS was implemented in October of 2015, okay? So a year prior to this, about a year and a half prior to this, at the beginning of 2014, we started with the preparation for ICD-10. We were going through a whole program at my facility for learning ICD-10. And they said, if you want to learn ICD-10 PCS, we have this little 2-day program and that you can learn it at the end of the week. So I was like, oh yeah, so I'll go ahead and sign up for it, but you could sign up for it because it was optional. So I was like, oh, I'll sign up for it because of course I'm an overachiever and that's what I do. So I go through this course for ICD-10. And like everybody else, I'm just like, oh man, this is like really confusing. Well, I had the opportunity to go through an additional program at home for ICD-10. So I was like, okay. So I went and started this other program at ICD-10 at home, and I said, you know, whatever gaps they have in the program here at work, surely it'll be able to fill for what I'm learning at home. And sure enough, it did. So the program that I had for learning ICD-10 at home was a lot different from what I had at the hospital. And the one that I had at home was way more comprehensive. And I was like, wow, okay, now it makes sense. So now I'm getting double training. Okay. So whereas I was kind of struggling in the beginning to like, what, sequela, what is that? Why do they have to have all these dumb letters? It's A, the D, the S. And then I got it. And then I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. Well, that same year, as we're going through the summertime and we're still going through these boot camps, right? I'm going through the boot camp at work and I'm still doing the one at home. Well, then in the fall, they were going to have, AHIMA was having their annual conference. And for some reason, I had never been to conference before, as far as like going to like the national conference for AHIMA. And I had never been. And I said, you know what? I think I want to go this year because it was out in California. It was the first one that I went to was in San Diego. And so I said, I've been to California. I lived in California many years ago. And I was like, well, I haven't been out there like in years. And I said, this would be fun to go to. And so I said, okay. And I asked my boss, I said, hey, if I want to go to this conference, we're not going to pay for you. And I said, I didn't ask you to pay. I said, but I'm just asking, can I get some administrative leave? And she's like, oh. She said, well, let me ask. So she asked the chief, and the chief said, yeah, we'll give you admin leave because that's going to be technically your place of duty because, you're learning and this is bettering your education and furthering your career and that kind of thing. So they said, yeah, you can go ahead and do that. We'll give you a travel day too. And I was like, yay, I didn't have to use any of my leave. So I was like, perfect, So I put in for admin leave and I was able to be gone the entire week. So I was like, yes. And so, so I was like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and plan my trip for California. And so I did. And when I went out to California and I did the first conference ever, I got to see, like, it wasn't just my coworkers who I knew as medical coders. There was tons of people, vendors, there was other professionals from other facilities, obviously from people I didn't even know. And then I was meeting all these different people. Well, the hotel I was staying at, I think I was staying in like Days Inn or something, you know what I mean? It's like right down from the convention hall, whatever. And so the first day that I get there, I'm like excited because I'm like, oh, I get to learn all these things. I was looking at all the classes that they had because you can sign up for whatever classes you want to go to. And then you get continuing education units for going to those classes. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to meet all of my continuing education unit requirements. And at the time, I only had a CCA. Okay, at the time, I only had a CCA. And so as I'm there at the hotel, and I'm saying, okay, well, this is my first time out there, and I'm like, oh, I don't know how to get to the conference hall. And I'm like, do you know how to get to the conference hall? And then I hear a voice behind me, and it's this lady. I turn around, and she's like, hi, are you a medical coder? And I said, yes. I said, are you a medical coder too? And she's like, yeah. She's like, hi. And I said, hi. She's like, it's right down the road. You go here, you turn here. She told me how to get to there. And she was waiting on her friend. She came in from Italy, right? She came in from Italy. And she's an Italian native. You could tell because of her voice and everything. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I love the sound of her voice, because she had this wonderful accent. And so she's like, I'm waiting for my friend, but do you want to walk together tomorrow? And I was like, yes, absolutely. And she goes, okay. And then she's like, well, I'll see you tomorrow then. I said, okay. So then her friend showed up and she took off and I went to go pick up my badges and everything. So as I'm there, they're like, okay, here's all your classes. And then you have like this first day where you can meet everybody. Like it's a first timers meeting, right? That you can go to that evening. So I went to the first timers meeting, and I was seeing like all these other people there, and I was just like, man, I don't I don't know anybody here, you know. And so I was like, oh, it's like, let me go over to the bathroom. And so I went to the bathroom, and I was freshening up because I'd been walking around and it was hot, and I was touching my makeup up, and then I hear, hey, how you doing? And I look over, and it's this lady named Darlene. So we get to talking. She's from Florida, and I was like, I'm from Texas, you know. And so we get to talking, and we just instantly became friends. Instantly, just standing there at the mirror, just hanging out, washing her hands, me doing my makeup, you know. And so she's like, well, do you want to walk around the exhibit hall? I was like, yes. And so they had opened up the exhibit hall for us, and we start seeing like all these vendors and everything, and all these products and everything like that. And I'm thinking to myself this whole time, I'm like, this is amazing. I get to be a medical coder and read all this stuff and do all this stuff. And then I get to go to places like this and meet these kind of people, because I'm thinking, I have this new friend. She's the best. And she's telling me all about her career and everything. And we're just running around in the exhibit hall and going to all these vendors and playing games and things like that. It was so much fun. And then I was like, I met this other lady. Her name is Leah. And then she's like, do you think she wants to hang out with us too? I go, yeah, but she's, hanging out with her friend here. And then I said, but I'll bring her tomorrow for breakfast. And she was like, okay. So she goes off to her hotel. I go back to my hotel. The next morning, when I met up with Leah, and I start telling her all about Darlene. She's like, oh, she sounds like a nice lady. And I said, she is really awesome. You're going to love her. Well, they hit it off amazingly. And we spent the next 3 days just having a ball, all three of us. And so after that, I was just like, this is really, these are my people. This is like, because we could talk about cases like this scenario and this and this and this. And we could like, oh yeah, this is what I would do in that situation. This is what I would do. And I'm like, these are actual people who get it. And they know a lot too. So when I got back, I think that moment started when I got back home to Texas after the conference. And I got to work, and I could not wait to get to work. I could not wait to get to work. And not just because I had brought back the swag. I brought back a ton of swag for everybody in the office, because we worked all together in a 20-person bullpen-filled room. And I brought back swag. I brought back pens and candy and bags and books. Everything and anything that you can imagine is in that exhibit hall. I brought it all back. And I said, here you go, ladies. And it was like Christmas. They were fighting over bags. I mean, they were just like so excited. They're like, anybody that's ever gone to conference, like it was like leadership, like the supervisors, they had gone, but they never brought back that much stuff. And I'm like, here you go, have fun with it. And they were like, wow, that was really nice of you, Blue. And it was just nice to see their face. I mean, this was all free stuff. I mean, so obviously I paid to go to conference, but I didn't have to pay for each and every one of these things. And, it made the workplace really awesome, because they were just so happy with these little things, and the fact that I thought of them too, to bring back something, and I didn't have to, but I did, so, but I got so excited because this was like learning something new. And they were like, well, what did you learn when you were over there? And I was like, oh, I learned this and I learned this. And I started talking to them about it. And then all of a sudden you see like a bunch of people like crowding around. They're like, is that how that goes? And I'm like, yeah. And so I'm explaining, and then I'm showing them how they were saying how to work it through in the encoder, or even how to work it through in the book to find different codes and stuff. And they were like, that makes so much more sense. Well, then of course that teaching bug gets me. And because I love teaching. I've always loved to teach. And it's not just there in this line of work that I've done that. But when I had that, and I was like, yes, that. And when you see that aha moment, it's the best thing. And teachers know this when they see this, when they see the person having that aha moment. And so that's when I realized something. This is a career. This is not a job. And I started taking my work way more like next level. Okay, so I'm gonna learn more. And I said, how can I learn more? So I started subscribing to the New England Journal of Medicine, which those words went completely over my head. They still go over my head. But there's something about being able to understand where the doctors are coming from when they're speaking. Because it's one thing when you read it, it's another thing when you hear it. And listening to them and reading these articles, it was starting to make sense. So then I started watching more YouTube videos about surgeries and things like that. So the vernacular was making more sense. And that was that moment right there that okay, this is not just a job, this is a career. And then 4 years later is when I started medical coding with Bleu. So, all right, let's see. Forever says, I went to the local library and checked out ICD-9 books and was reading anything about medical coding. Determined, for sure. That's me with inpatient coding. Kimberly says, I have my RHIT through AHIMA and my CPC with AAPC. If a webinar offers both an AHIMA and AAPC CEU, do you know if I can use it for both certifications? I don't see why not. AHIMA does accept AAPC CEUs, so if that's of concern to you, it shouldn't be, because they even said on the website they'll take them. And at my facility, we are offered CEUs as a condition of employment. They give it to us for free. Of course, we have to sit through the course, right, or the class, and they give it to us. And so it's always AAPC CEU, but you can use that for your AHIMA certification, certainly. Yes, you can use for both. Celia says, such a sweet story about meeting nice people. Yes, it was. And then when the following year in October of 2015, right before then, I believe it was in the spring. It was either in the spring or in the early part of summer. No, it was in 2016. We moved into our brand new hospital. So we had a brand new, beautiful hospital built, and we were out in an annex building because the hospital that we did have, it was too old, and the population, of course, had outgrown that hospital. So there was no room for us medical coders in the facility. So we only knew providers by email, right? And some of us knew them. I did not know them because I had been out in that building for years, so I didn't know who they were. Well, when we were moving into this new hospital, we got embedded into the clinic, and that was when that initial one-on-one with a provider started. And there's such a difference when you work closely with your providers versus communicating with them via email, because email is so easy for them to ignore, and so versus we share a break room now, and we share the hallways, and you can hear me running around in the clinic, because when you think about it, everybody in the clinic either wears boots or sneakers. If they're like nurses, of course they're going to be wearing sneakers. The surgeons, they wear their surgical boots, and you hear them clomping through the hallways. But then you hear high heels, and that's me. So it's a difference, right? It is a difference when you bring different people in. And so they get to know me, I get to know them, and it made it so much easier to improve the documentation, to improve those relationships. Because for a long time, I didn't think that I would. I didn't think that was even possible, because having that dimension of being a medical coder, of communicating with these providers, I didn't think that was available to me. Because like I said, I told one of my providers, I was like, why do you want to hear anything I have to say? I'm just a coder. And he told me, and of course it sticks with me, that, Bleu, you're the subject matter expert. You know coding. I don't know coding. You speak coder, I speak doctor, So that's where you have to help me. And so I was like, okay. So that was like, okay, I have a skill that he doesn't have, and we have to work together. And so that was what changed everything. That's when I started learning about, communicating with providers and these alpha personalities, and how it's so different. with just your regular coworkers, because providers, they communicate differently and they have different needs based on their personality. Sometimes you have to be able to learn how to read their personality. You have to be able to learn how to read their energy, because if you don't, you can lose them very quickly. Where some of them will say, I don't want to listen to you. You know what I'm saying? They didn't say this to me, but I've seen them do this to other people. And it's devastating when they do this to other medical coders, because I know that that coder did something without either thinking about it or didn't think that it was important enough of a detail, you know, in addressing them. So, yeah. um I love the blue hearts. Thank you, Kimberly. Kat says, same, good to tackle it early. Yes. Celia with the shoes. But yeah, so, you know, it changes everything when you start building these relationships, you know, so. But I haven't seen Portia. Portia, are you here? I promised Portia that I would address something for her, but I have not seen her in the comments yet. So I guess I will go ahead and address the comment that she had. There was a comment. Let me go ahead and pull it up, because I told her that I would talk about it on tonight's episode. Here we go. All right. So, oh no, you are in here. Yep. I just said, as I was saying, yep. I looked at I was thinking about your profile picture, and I was like, okay. All right. So the email or the comment says, hi, Blue. I have my CPC and my CRC. My risk adjustment job wanted me to get it, and they paid for me to get it. And see, that's cool. Okay. If your job is paying for you to get these additional credentials, and they're paying for the upkeep, that is totally fine by me, because you get all the education that you could possibly get. But I'm talking about, like, if you're thinking you have to go into your pocket every single time, guys, the employers can pay for some of this stuff too. Okay. I have 2 years of risk adjustment experience only, and wanted to break into inpatient coding. I have been studying the manual as necessary, the CPT, the ICD-10 PCS, the HCPCS Level 2, to be taken seriously. But in my very recent experience of applying, all the job ads for inpatient coding wants the CCS over the CPC, which I understand why the CCS explores more than the CPC. Yes, because the CCS is the mastery. This is the gold standard of medical coding credentials, because it covers ICD-10 CM, ICD-10 PCS, and CPT. So it's covering inpatient coding and outpatient coding. And inpatient coding as in for the facility with a PCS, ICD-10 PCS, I'm not talking about like pro fee, okay, professional fee. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about ICD-10 PCS. So it's two completely different mindsets with CPT and ICD-10 PCS. These are the two different types of procedure coding. Now with the CPC, it is only covering the CPT side, right? And of course, HCPCS. HCPCS Level 2 can also be used in the inpatient setting as well. Everybody uses it, okay, because it's like durable medical equipment and supplies and that kind of thing. So, but the CPC is only in the outpatient setting. So when they see 2 candidates and one has a CCS and one has a CPC, they're going to know that the person with the CCS knows how to code inpatient and outpatient. So that's why when you're looking at these job listings and they're asking for the candidate to have a CCS, is because they know this person has training in PCS. They're not going to really ask for the CPC. Now I do know some people who are inpatient medical coders with only their CPC, because they got on the job training. So it really depends on where you are. Sometimes you may be able to get lucky, and sometimes you may be able to talk your way into saying, hey, I've done this independent study on my own. I still only have a CPC, but I'm really thinking about, pursuing my CCS, then they're like, okay, well, if they're desperate enough, they'll let you in. But it does take somebody to, have that tenacity in order to be able to get in. But just that aside, just saying. Um, let's see. But because you state the fact that one would be duplicating their credentials, in my case, the CPC and the CCS portion of it being like the CPT side is what they're referring to. What other option do I have when the jobs want a certification I don't yet have and the experience I'm not close to having? Of course, I have to brush up intensely on my resume to really sell myself to which I plan to do. But I wanted to know what your opinion is of this particular circumstance. So here's the thing. When it comes to duplicating credentials, there's a lot of people who do have the CPC and they have their CCS. A lot of people started with the CPC because that's the when they're going through these programs. There's a lot of programs that push the CPC. They say, oh, it's easier. It's not easier, guys. These tests are not easy. All right. But they want to push the CPC. So the people get it because they don't know, right? They don't know. So they start off with this one. And then they start hearing about everybody looking for the CCS. And so then they say, okay. And then they maybe hear, oh, it's really hard. It's just a very rigorous exam. And they really recommend that you have experience because of its rigorousness. But they say, well, is it duplicating? Technically, it's half duplicating. You don't need, if you have the CCS, you do not need the CPC. And there's people who think that you don't need it because that CCS already covers what the CPC has. Okay. Now, if you start off with a CPC, and you say, well, I want to sit for and take the CCS, and you pass it, you absolutely have the option of letting the CPC go because you already have the one credential that says you've mastered both inpatient and outpatient. It's not about having multiple credentials, guys. It's not about that. It's about what these credentials stand for everything that you know, right? And again, it's more money if you maintain the CPC, because you have to pay for that membership dues every single year that you have your credential. You have to pay for those 36 continuing education units that you got to maintain for that CPC. All right. So that's the thing. At the end of the day, you're spending money, and for what? Because somebody who has one credential can make the same as somebody who has those same two credentials. It really all depends on where they are and what they're doing. Okay. So let me see something here. Yes. Quinn says, if your organization is short-staffed, you'll get a lot of exposure quickly and experience. Yes. But yeah, so that's the thing. If you want to do it that way, a lot of people have done that where they just let their CPC lapse and they went ahead and just stuck with the one CCS. The CCS, if you have just the one, it's 20 CEUs, just 20, all right, for your 2-year cycle. Now, AHIMA does allow you to have the choice of whether you want to be a member or not. If you choose to be a member, right, then you have the member price. If you choose not to have a membership, they will charge you a separate fee for reporting your continuing education units. And that's just fair. It's because they're administrative cost, so either way, you're going to have to pay out something. But if you don't want to pay for the membership, you can obviously pay, less just to report the CEUs if you want to do that. And again, it saves you money. And again, this one credential says that you've mastered inpatient and outpatient. And in the long run, it's going to cost you way less than that CPC. So look at it that way, guys. It's not about trying to be impressive and have a row of credentials. Because I look a lot of times at I look at these people with a lot of credentials after their name, and a lot of them can be eliminated easily because it's just like, okay, that's already included in that, that's included in that, and it's not impressive to me. What impresses me is the person's actual knowledge, because somebody can have a row of credentials and not know a hill of beans how to code. Really, I've seen that. I see that all the time. So, that's the thing, guys. It's about the individual. And I spent many years, I spent 13 years with only one certification, and that was the CCA, the Certified Coding Associate, the one that is misunderstood by so many people. And I will always advocate for the CCA because that's how I was able to grow and develop. And a lot of me keeping that CCA for as long as I did was because I'm stubborn. And I wanted to show people because I was tired of the trash talk. I was tired of people saying, oh, this and that and this and that. Oh, really? Let me show you a thing or two, buddy. And then when I have the privilege of being able to teach other medical coders and teach providers and teach leadership, that makes me so happy because that changed people's minds. Because a lot of times people don't know. You don't know what you don't know until somebody comes along and explains it to you. But you have to be open to hearing that advice. Just like that woman who did not want to listen to advice. Oh, that's absurd. Don't use big words you can't understand, lady. Don't. Because when it comes to being grateful will get you a heck of a lot farther in your career and in life in general than it will be if you're ungrateful. I'm just saying. Hi, Heidi. Thank you for the blue hearts. Cat time. I like that. I like the name Cat time. Very helpful information. Thanks so much, Blue. You're welcome. Quinn, I once saw someone who listed more than 15 credentials. That was ridiculous. Heidi, I think you answered this question before, but I don't remember. Why did you get the CCSP? Aha! I'll come back to that one. Cat time. Me too. They have a YouTube channel. So Forever says CCSP, physician based, profi coding, HCC is big. Okay, so here's the thing. At the beginning of 2021, last year, I, without going into too much detail, I had to put my CCA to bed. Okay, I had to put my CCA to bed. And this was a big decision for me because I didn't want to. I have prided myself on so many years of having the CCA. And I said, okay, I need to put it to bed. It's time to put it to bed. Well, out of the two options that I have with the HEMA, the CCSP and the CCS, the one I knew I was most ready for was the CCSP, right? Because that's the mastery of the outpatient setting. I said, I know I'm the most ready for that one. So if I have the choice between the two, I probably could have passed the CCS in the beginning. But I was like, I need time because I have not had any hands-on work experience with ICD-10 PCS and working on the inpatient side. But I had been in the outpatient setting for 13 years. And so I said, okay, well, let me go ahead and take the CCSP. And I took it and I passed. I still had an hour and 10 minutes left on the clock. That's how fast I got through that exam because that's all outpatient coding. That's all the stuff that I know. And I passed that test with a few touchdowns. So I was very happy about that. And I said to myself, okay, what's the next challenge? So I said, okay, Scott, you know what? I'm going to go for the gold. I'm going to do this. But I need time to study. And I'm going to study with that inpatient book. And I went through an inpatient coding boot camp. And so that really helped. I went through the one with HC Pro. It's a little expensive, but it helped to supplement all the things that I knew I needed to learn for that inpatient side. And so it was in November of the same year that I went and I sat for it and I passed the CCS. So a lot of people will say, well, are you going to let the CCSP lapse? No, because I have them both and I earned it. That's the way I look at it. I earned it. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave it. Now there may be a time when I decide, I don't need it, but for right now I want it. Right now I want it. And it's not really hurting me. It's not, it's not like I have these exorbitant amount of CEUs that I got to get with it, not at all, so that's why I say I'm going to go ahead and keep it. So I have it, I'm going to keep it. And that's where I am. But, the CCSP is a mastery of the outpatient setting. So if you're working like in a clinic, like an outpatient clinic, or if you're working like in an urgent care, if you're working in the ER and that kind of thing, the CCSP is great. And CCSPs can work anywhere, It's often the one I think is kind of overlooked because people automatically associate outpatient coding with AAPC, and they say, oh, that's CPC. Well, they don't really think about the CCSP, because when it comes to the credentials that get the most attention with AHIMA, when it comes to the medical coding side, the two that get attention is the CCA and the CCS. And it's usually because they're saying, oh, I don't want to get the CCA, I want to get the CCS, because everybody wants that one. But if you look in these job listings, you'll see a lot of them want the CCSP as well. They'll say CCSP, CCS, or CPC. Really just depends on where you're applying. They do ask for the CCA. That does get asked for as well. But it really all depends, too, on the title that you're putting in, right? Sometimes if you're putting in health information tech, all those medical coding jobs will pop up, and they'll ask for the CCA. But if you're putting in like remote medical coder, sometimes it'll pop up, so it really all depends on the company and what they're calling those coders, and if the company understands what these credentials mean, right? So that's the thing. And sometimes you'll see, even in the job listings, that they're looking for a CPCH. Well, I know the CPCH is no longer CPCH, it's COC now. But again, that place is using a template. So that's why I say, if you're qualified for the job and they're not particularly asking for your credential, go ahead and apply anyway. Because if they're desperate enough, they'll call you. And they may give you a test, so that way they can test your skill. And that way you've got to make sure that you do your best, because when you do your best, that's when you get calls back. Okay? But don't reinforce their thought of, oh, new coders are not very well trained, so we don't want them. It's independent study, guys. It really is a lot of independent study, Oh, thank you. So yes, but that hopefully that answers your question, Portia, on that. Let's see, because I think I covered everything. Yes. So I mean, if you have your CPC now and you decide to get the CCS and you want to let that CPC lapse because it's a money thing too, enjoy your money. Enjoy that $200, or because it's supposed to go up. The AAPC membership fee is supposed to go up, right? But right now it's $190. Enjoy your $200 every year, okay? If you decide to switch over to AHIMA. There's nothing wrong with it, guys. There really isn't. And if you look in the job listings too, never once have I ever seen in a job listing, candidate must have multiple credentials to get this job. Never. Just say it. Good. All right, good. Forever says, evaluation and management, cha-cha-cha, changes. Many jobs for this now. So with evaluation and management, there's a lot of people that fear evaluation and management because other people make them fear it. So when you're in school, right? And then you always hear those people complaining and groaning, oh no, evaluation and management, I hate evaluation and management. Then that starts to become contagious. And then other people are saying, I hate evaluation and management. It's so scary. So scared of it. And they're smart and I don't know. Guys, trust me. Once you start learning it, once you really get into the guidelines and you really start applying them, it's going to start to make sense. When you start looking at the evaluation and management tool, right? It's available at cms.gov. There's the Medicare Learning Network. It has the evaluation and management booklet that you can download for free. Guys, it's free. There's free resources all over cms.gov. Okay, you just have to get to the Medicare Learning Network of it. All right. And every insurance, or most insurances, will model themselves after Medicare, right? Because Medicare is most conservative when it comes to payment. So that's why a lot of insurances will follow them. So a lot of their rules are going to be the same rules. All right. So start there and look at that evaluation and management tool and start to break down the different risks of risk levels. Sorry, blank mind there. Okay, so you look at each and every level. I have done the study hall for this before on YouTube, and it did not get a lot of play. I was so disappointed because I had prepared for that show And everybody was like, oh, yes, Blue, we're so excited. And then nobody showed up and nobody wanted to participate. So I said, you know what? Fine. I'm going to go ahead and put it all on my YouTube channel, on my Patreon channel. So that's where I've been putting it. But this is just little tidbits for you guys. You know, this is where it starts. Evaluation and management starts by confronting it head on, and that you don't show it any fear. When you start to show it fear, that's when it'll grab you. When I was in school, that was the first thing that they told me, because I was in a self-paced school. And they said, well, Blue, you're accelerating, you're going really fast in this program, but we want you to know that evaluation and management is coming up. And I'm like, so? And they were like, right, how arrogant, right? And they go, well, a lot of people are failing this part. I said, well, mess on that. I've been doing so good with time. And they go, yeah, but you just got to be careful, because a lot of people, they either fail it and they have to take it again, or it just slows them down. I said, well, no, that's not going to be me. So what I did was I got the book, their instructional book for evaluation and management. Don't ask me the title because it's way outdated by now. So I said, fine, I'm going to make this book my new best friend. I literally opened it up and I read every single page of that book. And that book was thick, thick. And so when I was in school, I would be like in those study groups or whatever. And they were like, why are you reading the whole thing? And they go, you're reading the whole thing? And I'm like, yeah. Because they would see me flipping the pages. And they go, why are you doing that? It's only just this one part that we need to read. Why are you making yourself work harder? And I go, because I don't want to have to take this course again. They go, but you don't have to do that. Why are you doing that? I said, how many times have you been through this course? Well, that's not fair. They don't have an instructor here for us. That's why I'm reading it page by page by page. I only intend to do this course one time. That's it. And sure enough, I made it through. Now, it took me a while because I had to read the whole book, but I still managed to make it through on the first try. And that was the whole goal. Now, again, it was just like, it wasn't so scary once I got through the book. And it was just that one simple act of getting through the book. That was all it took. But that's one thing that some people are just like, I get so tired of reading, Blue. And at that time, there wasn't all this YouTube out there. And there certainly was not anybody like me. There's still nobody like me. I'm just saying. But there was nobody like me to tell me to do this stuff. I was just like pioneering through this whole thing on my own, trying to figure this stuff out. And I was like, well, it was one thing I do like to do is read. So just going through and reading it, that helped me to understand, and it helped me to never fear E&M. I'm just saying. So, oh, I know that hurts, Jamie. I know that hurts. Let's see. Tammy says, getting back to the books, everyone. Have a great weekend. Thank you, Tammy. So, Juliet, the credentials are not based on how much money you make. Because people who have degrees, and when I had the CCA, I made more than people who have degrees. I made more than people who were nurses. I made more than people who had experience, just having my CCA. So it's not about the credential and how much money you can make based on that credential. It's about the experience of the person. That's where the money is. It's not in the credential. Just saying. Celia says, what do you think would be the best first-timer option? The CCA, I'm considering which course to take and have no experience yet, plus need to study medical terminology and anatomy beforehand. Yes, definitely. Excuse me. Yeah, the CCA is a great first-time option because it's testing you on inpatient and outpatient, so you can apply for those inpatient or outpatient positions. So you have more places that you can apply it versus just applying at only outpatient clinics, right? So if you wanted to do that, you certainly could. If you're going through your program and it says, hey, we're preparing you for the CCA, and then as you're going through your program, you don't feel comfortable enough with the ICD-10 PCS book, you could actually go ahead and sit for the CCSP instead of the CCA. Because there's no experience required. You can take these tests because you'll have the training for the outpatient side. So if you're confident with that CPT book, you could certainly sit for the CCSP instead if you want to stick with the HEMA. Okay, you do not necessarily have to go with AAPC if you don't want to. But if you're telling me that you're interested in the CCA and you're saying that you may want to try for the CCA, or again, if you get to that program and you decide I don't like PCS, I want to stick with CPT, you can certainly go to take the CCSP instead. So you have the option. All right, it's not just, you don't have to be limited to just AAPC. AHEMA has the CCSP available for the outpatient only. So Glamorous says, a great timing live. Just yesterday, I got selected, cracked all 3 interviews in a healthcare institute, and now I have decided to complete CPC within 2 months. BLEU. My name is BLEU. Any tips for me? Forever says, Optum Evaluation and Management Coding Advisors on my desk all day. I love that book. I have that book. Heidi says, people, please read the Evaluation and Management Guidelines. It will definitely help you tremendously. I did that and it helped me. There you go. Glamour says, thanks, blessed one. I have completed psychology and done MBBS, medical billing, something such as, I don't know, for 4 years, and now I entered medical coding as I'm a newbie. I need guidance to get past, to be in good among most in my training period. So you decided to complete the CPC within 2 months. So you've been in that program, or hopefully you've been studying, because longer than 2 months, because that's really fast. And unless you have some background already with those codes, you're setting yourself up if you are trying to get it done in only 2 months. I don't like that. I don't like when people try to spring all of that on themselves and they say, oh yeah, you can learn it in 2 months. I know schools that push that. You can learn coding in 2 months. Oh, you have prior background in medical? Oh, you've been a nurse? You can learn it in just 8 weeks. Guys, that's ridiculous. For all the things that we have to learn in coding, no. Now you need to, if you're going to take it seriously, 9 months, 12 months, or 18 months to learn it. But if you want to try to learn it in 2 months, come back and talk to me when you get done in 2 months. Come back and talk to me and tell me if it happened or not. Because that's a lot. It's too much. And I will never recommend programs that are so fast like that. Never. Never. Because I believe that that's the problem with people being brand new and these companies not wanting to hire brand new people because of these fast-paced medical coding programs. They don't prepare people enough, and people are just out there ill-prepared, but they want a really good job. You have to work for it, folks. You have to work for it. And I tell you all this because I care, because I want people to understand this is a very serious field, and it takes serious people to fill this field. It's not just for those that want to not put in the work and be scared of anatomy and be scared of medical terminology. Guys, you have to know anatomy. Anatomy makes a huge difference in your code selections. It makes a huge difference in your understanding of that evaluation and management tool, okay? Your pathophysiology is very important as well. You have to understand the disease process, because if you don't, you're likely to pick up symptoms in addition to a definitive diagnosis, which we know you're not supposed to do. And how do you know that? If you understand the disease process, you're not going to have this issue. If you don't, and you're just looking for diagnoses in there because, oh yeah, I can code, and then you start over coding and over reporting, that's a problem, guys. So I'm just saying. Yes, I always keep it 100. Always keep it 100. For some, they like it. Others, they do not. I don't care. Because I would rather people be real and say the truth rather than fluffy stuff. And all of a sudden, everybody, because there's a lot of people singing the same chorus. Oh, it's this, oh, it's that. And people have told me, why are you being so negative about getting into the medical billing coding field? So you want me to tell you what everybody else says? Oh yeah, you can work from home and you can raise your kids. But really, in the grand scheme of things, when you get into it, this lady, she posted about having 2 at-home jobs as a brand new medical coder. She got one, and then she got fired from that one, and then she went to another one, and she got fired from that one because she said she had a lot of life stuff going on. So everybody at your workplace is supposed to go along with you when you're having all this life stuff going on. If you are not putting in the effort at work, something's going to suffer. It's going to be your work, right? So again, everybody has those times in their life where things just sort of pile on. I've had those situations when I got here to my forever home and I lost my mom. Not long after I was here. It was just a few months later. And you want to talk about a gut punch? Okay, so I'm in a brand new place, really no friends around, right? Because all my friends were back in the other town that I had just left. And I'm here by myself and I have to do all these things. And now I'm alone. But you know what I did and what helped me and what saved me was the coding. And I will always say this because the coding saved me. Because that was the one thing I could do was concentrate for those 8 hours. And that's what I told myself. You got 8 hours to not think about anything. You don't have to be the person who's grieving. You don't have to be the person who has to handle all these things. You could be the person who's getting into this record and coding this stuff and getting it done right and getting all of these production, these wonderful numbers. This is your escape. And that's exactly how I did it. And that's what saved me. That's what helped me get through that time. Because at the end of the day, I could do whatever it is that I need to do. I could be businesswoman blue. I could be whatever I needed to be blue mode, and do whatever I needed to do. But right when that clock hit 7 o'clock, I was right there and I was working and I could focus on my work. So don't let your circumstances that are exterior affect you when you're trying to work. Because at the end of the day, that's your bread and butter. That's how you're going to be able to support yourself. That's how you're going to be able to pay your rent or pay your mortgage and put food on the table. You know, I have to do, okay, I got to be able to keep a roof over my head. And for all those days that I wanted to crawl into a hole and not do anything, I had to keep a roof over my head and I had to keep going. I had a car note. I had all these other things. So, and I had to keep food on the table for myself. Nobody else could do it but me. So again, we have to not be this society of people who allows our exterior circumstances to get to us. We have to learn to focus on the things that are important and be able to compartmentalize those things so that way we can focus on what we have. We won't have to worry about our job because we've got that under control. We can take care of our circumstances and everything else whenever the time is appropriate after those work hours, but never allow your work to suffer. Because if you do, again, now you got even more problems now. Now you got no place to go, or you're going to have a hard time feeding yourself or paying your bills and things like that. So take that worry off your book and make sure that you're concentrating when you're at work. And I know it's hard. Oh, I know it's hard. But that can also be your freedom right there, because then you don't have to be responsible for all these other things at that moment. You're just responsible for what you got here in front of you. So that's just my advice anyway, whether you guys listen to it or not, it's just there. Glamour says, you're right, Blue, but people here don't even mind us, even if we are skilled, but all they see is whether you're certified or not. That's why I'm urged to complete the CPC fast enough. Well, there you go. Forever says, it's expected you already know the answers before you ask the questions. Yeah. And that's the way it is. And that's why I always say that you guys have to learn how to do your research. You have to know how to do your research. And that's just the nature of this business. But yeah, if you can get through it that fast, Glamorous, and you know what you're doing, you got it, by all means, you go right ahead. But it's a lot. I'm telling you, it's a lot. And I hope you don't burn yourself out, okay? So make sure that you're giving yourself breaks. Give yourself breaks in between, okay? Because there's nothing worse than studying so hard, burning yourself out, and then not being able to do what you want to do. Because I've had how many people come to my channel, freak themselves out about their test, and then they fail. Even after I tell them, don't freak out about your test. Don't freak out about your test. And they still freak out about the test. Well, no, I just have this nervousness, because you're telling yourself that you're nervous. You're not trusting what you've learned. You're not trusting all that time and hours you spent studying. You're not trusting it, guys. You have to learn to trust it. And in order for everything to come back to you like you want it, you need to trust yourself all the time that you spent studying so that you can walk in there confidently and then you can be able to leave with a passing score. That's the only way you're going to be able to do it. Just saying. All right, guys. What is it? It's an hour and 15 minutes. So I did not do too bad. I kept it a little over an hour. It's not like the 2-hour shows like I used to do. People will get mad at me for that. Your shows are too long. Well, you can always fast forward the speed if you want to. I mean, you could put it 2 times the speed if you like. But, really, but there's other YouTubers out there who have 2-hour shows. One of the shows that I watch, or the channels that I watch, is Think Like a Horse. Rick, hysterical guy. I enjoy listening to him because he's funny, because he has all his shows about, the horses that he works with and stuff like that. He used to train dogs for the military. And so he's just an awesome, funny guy. He's very blunt. You think I'm blunt? I am a Smurf compared to him. I mean, Rick is just like, sometimes some of the things he says, I'm just like, okay, Rick. But you see him with horses and stuff like that. I like Rick because Rick has a lot of common sense stuff on his channel. And he's very blunt too. And the way he says things, and of course he offends people because, people get their feelings hurt easily and stuff like that. And I'm like, I can understand that, because, when you try to tell people the right way to do things, that sometimes they don't want to hear it, and they get mad at you because that's not the easy way. They want the easy way and not the difficult way, but one of his things that I like that Rick says is, the slow way is the fast way. And that's not, that is such a true saying. The slow way is the fast way. He says, if you learn it slow, you're going to be able to do your task quickly. It's the same thing with medical coding. If you read those coding guidelines, that's a slow way. The slow way is the fast way. And guess who's going to be the subject matter expert? You. I'm just saying. Forever says, your awesomeness is inspiring. Thank you so much. You have to know how to navigate your books. Yes, for sure. Celia says, thank you for all your advice. Cat time. Free information and experience for an hour and 15 minutes. I'll never complain about that. Great. Thank you so much. Your passion and wisdom are always appreciated. I'm so glad. And thank you for the blue heart. So guys, I am going to go ahead with that. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Thank you guys so much. I don't know if I'm going to have 4 shows next week or if I'm going to have 3 shows next week, because next week is Thanksgiving and it falls on a Thursday. That's technically one of my days of the show. So I don't know if I'm going to do a show for Sunday night, do Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or if I'm going to do Friday night instead. I don't know. Or I may just end up doing 3. I still haven't decided yet. So I guess y'all see when it comes out, so if you hear a little ping, if you haven't already hit that subscribe bell or whatever, the notification bell. Yeah. If you haven't already hit that, you should, because if there's a bonus episode, you'll be able to get it. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this one up. Thank you guys so much for joining me. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate it. Yes, exactly. All right, guys. And I will see you guys next time. Like, subscribe, and share. Bye.